Some songs just do the trick for us at Halloween. Spooky-sounding songs, Don't Fear the Reaper by Blue Oyster Cult or Witchy Woman by the Eagles, certainly conjure up a Halloween vibe. And then, some songs aren't meant to be spooky in the witches and goblins sense, but just sound sinister, right down to the title. Red Rider's evocative tune, Lunatic Fringe, is just that kind of song. And it actually means something far deeper and heavier for its songwriter than what it first seems like. A little backstory about the band. Tom Cochrane joined Red Rider in 1978, after the band had already released their first album. He had come up playing in the same Toronto clubs as the band, and was making a name for himself as a songwriter. His joining Red Rider marked a shift in the lineup, and they set out to record the second album, As Far as Siam, in Los Angeles in 1980. That newly formed lineup consisted of Rob Baker on drums. He's also responsible for the harmonica we hear on Lunatic Fringe. Peter Boynton on piano and synthesizers. Ken Greer on guitar, including the steel guitar on the song. Jeff Jones on bass, and Cochrane on lead vocals and guitar. On a side note, Jones had previously been in the very first incarnation of fellow Canadian band Rush, replaced by Geddy Lee in the late 60s, and the rest, as they say, is history. Red Rider recorded the material for As Far as Siam at Sunset Sound in LA, and Peter Wolf of the Jay Giles Band was brought on to provide additional synths on Lunatic Fringe. He's responsible for the eerie sounds we hear in the beginning of the song. Cochrane wrote most of the album, firmly earning band leader status. And in fact, later, the group came to be known as Tom Cochrane and Red Rider. Now, Cochrane had an interesting life prior to all this. He had been a cab driver, he worked on a loading dock, and he was a crewman on sailboats before focusing on writing songs for a living. He has said that as a child, he was fascinated by journalists, Edward R. Murrow, Walter Cronkite, and fellow Canadian journalist Peter Jennings. He was so influenced by them that he began to think of himself as a sonic journalist, which he says may explain songs like Lunatic Fringe. On the album, the dedication for the song reads, "To Raoul Wallenberg, a man of peace and courage." Cochrane wrote the song after reading about Wallenberg, a Swedish diplomat who saved thousands of Jews in Budapest from the Holocaust during World War II by issuing protective passports and creating safe houses. Wallenberg was detained on suspicion of espionage in 1945 by the Red Army's siege of Budapest, and shortly after that, he disappeared. He was reported to have died 2 years later at the prison inside the headquarters of the KGB secret police in Moscow. Wallenberg knew he was in peril while helping to protect Jewish people, but it never stopped him from doing what he thought was right. This triggered the journalistic interest of Cochrane when it came to writing the song, and it completely informed Lunatic Fringe. The song starts like this. Lunatic Fringe. I know you're out there. You're in hiding and you hold your meetings. We can hear you coming. We know what you're after. We're wise to you this time. We won't let you kill the laughter. It's pretty heavy material for a rock song, and when Cochrane first shared what he was writing, he got some pushback, being asked by the band and others in their sphere, why don't you just write a pop song? But he felt that the song was important, speaking out against injustice and channeling courage for the persecuted, and he wrote it anyway. It goes on. Lunatic Fringe. In the twilight's last gleaming. This is open season, but you won't get too far. We know you've got to blame someone for your own confusion, but we're on guard this time against your final solution. The term "the final solution" was Adolf Hitler's. It referred to Nazi Germany's ending the policy of simply forcing Jews to leave the German Reich and instead implementing mass murder. It is chilling to think of. This song speaks out against that and against the awful things that people in power can do when that power is left unchecked, and when lunatics on the fringes of society gain a significant following. The song goes on. We can hear you coming. You're not going to win this time. We can hear the footsteps way out on the walkway. Lunatic Fringe. We know you're out there. But in these new dark ages, there will still be light. Ultimately, this song is one about hope prevailing over despair and about saying the important things out loud. One event occurred while Cochrane was recording the demo for the song that made him even more resolute about it. He was working on it in early December of 1980, and on December 8th, John Lennon was shot and killed. Cochrane has said that when he found out about that, it made up his mind that the lyrics would stand no matter what. In fact, he said that John Lennon's death at the hands of a lunatic gave him a reason to finally record it. And the song ends. An eye for an eye, well before you go under. Can you feel the resistance? Can you feel the thunder? It is a heavy song for rock and roll. But it did a surprising thing when the As Far as Siam album was released on June 30th of 1981. It started to get played on the radio, going to number 11 on the rock airplay chart in Billboard by September. And while the song never got to the top 40 chart, and in fact, no Red Rider song has ever done that in the US, the video was played heavily on MTV. And of course, it was used in one of the key scenes in the 1985 movie Vision Quest, starring Matthew Modine as a high school wrestler with a lot to prove. The soundtrack for Vision Quest, which also featured Crazy for You by Madonna and Hot Blooded by Foreigner, among others, was hugely successful and earned Red Rider a new batch of fans. Tom Cochrane went on to even more success as a songwriter, including with his 1991 solo hit, Life is a Highway, which was covered by Rascal Flatts for the Cars movie soundtrack in 2006. He is one of only 3 male Canadian songwriters to have a diamond-certified album in Canada. He's released a total of 17 albums to date, both with and without Red Rider. He's said that Lunatic Fringe is one of the songs he's most proud of because it is so unique. A song with a dark and foreboding sound that deals with truly scary subject matter, it became an unlikely hit, inspired by a war hero who saved the persecuted, and by the shock of the death of John Lennon. And it sounds especially good when you hear it in October, a perfectly eerie companion to days that grow shorter and colder with the season. I'm Janda, and this has been Behind the Song. Special thanks to Christian Lane for the music you hear on this podcast. Subscribe on YouTube and watch the video episodes, and you can follow Behind the Song podcast on TikTok. On the way, episodes about lyrics from The Who, Led Zeppelin, and more classic rock and roll. It seems like everyone I talk to is taking advantage of low mortgage rates these days, and for good reason. Rates are near the lowest they've been in decades, and our friends at DuPage Credit Union want to help you make the most of this market. So whether you're a first-time home buyer, you're looking to refinance, or you want to renovate your home, DuPage Credit Union's award-winning team will be there every step of the way, from application to closing. Plus, home buyers can qualify for $300 off their first month's mortgage payment by completing a free home loan consultation. Take advantage of DuPage Credit Union's low rates today. To schedule a free consultation or to apply, call 800-323-2611 or visit DuPageCU.com. That's DuPageCU.com. DuPage Credit Union is an equal housing opportunity lender. NMLS number 445096. By Members' Choice, this financial institution is not federally insured. Members' deposits are privately insured up to $250,000 per account through American Share Insurance. DuPage Credit Union. Banking inspired.